Hi everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing this QSP Parrot. It's a very inexpensive knife that's kind of batting above its price category. So we will start off with size comparisons like normal. Has a blade length of 3.25 inches. You can see it's about the same in terms of cutting edge as Spyderco PM2 and a bit more than Spyderco UK PK. Overall length of 7.25 inches, which makes it a little bit shorter than a Kershaw bare knuckle and a little bit longer than a Kershaw Atmos. The thickness here is 1/2 inch, which is a very kind of standard thickness for a folding knife. It's a little bit thinner than an Ontario Rat though, and depending on how you measure things, it's a lot thinner than an Open Nail, number 8. Now, this brand, QSP, stands for Quality Service Price, which I don't really like. I think it's a really tacky name for a company, and why it just has fire above it for no reason that I'm aware of. Like, the Hinderer, you get the flaming horse with the flaming mane, but he was a farrier for years and a volunteer firefighter for years, so that makes complete sense. Why is there fire above this? Especially when almost all of their knives are named after birds and animals. This is the parrot, you've got the penguin, you've got the falcon, the leopard, the piglet, the platypus. There's a lot of knives named after animals, almost all of them, and then they just have some generic fire? I don't get it. And I don't really care about it sounding quite tacky on a knife of this price because it's very inexpensive. But on some of their higher end models, like £150 knives, quality service price is not really going to feel very good, at least not to me. I think they need to do something like CGRB and Artisan did. They've got like a higher and a lower end brand in one company. Same with like Civivi and Wee, Kershaw and ZT, that kind of thing. Anyway, on to functional stuff. This is a thumb stud knife. It deploys very, very nicely. Very nicely. It's on Teflon and phosphor bronze washers. It has one of each on each side of the blade, which is unusual, but I'm not going to complain about it when it works as well as it does. It's very, very smooth, and it not too far from drop shutty either. Try that again. Just a little flick and it falls shut. Really not bad. Not bad at all. On a knife that was 3 or 4 times this price, that would still be a completely acceptable action. So that is very, very good. Initially, the detent though was a little bit softer than I like. I made a video a few months ago where I took it apart, strengthened the detent and put it back together. If you want to see what the knife's like on the inside, how to take it apart, how to put it back together, or how to strengthen the detent, have a look at that. But now that I've done that, as you've seen, the action is really pretty good. The only problem I have with opening and closing this knife is that the access to the liner lock is very, very small. You can see you can only see a tiny little sliver of the liner lock there. If we compare that to Kershaw bare knuckle, you can see it's black here, which isn't ideal, but you can definitely see a larger chunk for you to get your thumb on. And even the access to the lock, even on the bare knuckle is not particularly huge. On the XM18, you can't see any, and I don't have a problem with it here, so why would I have a problem with it on the QSP? The thing is, on the Hinderer, this liner on the show side is cut in. You can see the liner comes along and hides in below the line of the carbon fibre, which gives you a bigger gap. And because the blade thickness is thicker, there's just a bigger gap for you to get your thumb in. So it's just not a problem on the XM18. But on the QSP, it's pretty awkward to get. Now that I'm used to it, I can get it relatively easily, but it took a little bit of getting used to be able to unlock it. I find myself really kind of sliding my finger, the flat of my finger across, where on something like this I might just push it with my tip of my finger a bit easier. So that's not great. If you're wearing gloves, that might be a bit of an issue. But everything I'm going to complain about in this review is very minor given the price category. Other than the access, the lock is done really pretty well. There is no real blade play to speak of whatsoever. It's about 40% lockup, which is all good. The scales are G10, which for the money is good. Two of the competitors in the same price category as this are Sog Traction and Buck Bantam, and they both have the far cheaper feeling and looking FRN or GRN or whatever they call it, but a plasticky material, where the G10 it's similar, but it's considered a more high-end material, so that's good. Nice seeing proper G10 for this money. The liners are steel, the blade is 440C. 440C is a cut above the likes of 8CR13 MOV, in my opinion. This Kershaw's 8CR, and it's like twice the price and a bit of the QSP, so it's good that they're giving us a higher end steel than I would expect to see in this money. And with stuff like the Sog Traction, which is more money, the blade made out of 5CR, which is just unacceptable, this is very, very good to see. The build quality is good too. Bit of a recurring theme with this knife, everything is done to a higher level than you would expect for this price category. There's no real fit or finish fables here. There's nothing that I can point to and say they got this bit wrong. It all feels fine. It all feels really pretty good. And again, if it was a chunk more money than it is, I wouldn't have a problem with it. If it was like a £250 knife, I would definitely have a problem. But for 2 or maybe even 3 times this price, the quality would still be okay, at least to me. The hardware on this knife is a T8 pivot and then unfortunately T6 screws for the body and the pocket clip. I'd love to see them using T8 all round like we get on the MBK Slayback. That would be absolutely wonderful. Same thing on the Civivi McKenna. It is something that we're starting to see a bit more of. Unfortunately, they haven't done that here. The reason for me wanting that is T6 screws can be a bit prone to stripping. Now, I use Wehabits and I haven't had a problem with these screws. Like I said, I've had the knife apart a couple times, so I don't think it's a problem on this knife, but I don't think it would have done them any harm to go a little bit bigger. Now, all of that is incredibly minor nitpicking, because in this category, a lot of the time, we're getting knives that are pinned together, and I would take any screwed together construction over this. I'd take really, really obscure bit construction. I'd take them using spanner bits all round over pinned together construction, because if something goes wrong with these two knives, they go off center, they develop blade play, they just get gunked up inside. You can't do anything about it. Whereas with this one, you can take it apart nice and easy and clean it out or adjust it and put it back together very, very easily. So the fact that it is screwed together for this money is brilliant. I'd still rather they use T8, but incredibly nitpicky to even mention that on a price, on a knife at this price point. The knife is very simple in terms of construction and in terms of design. They're not doing anything particularly outlandish here, but that's quite good. It all works well. The design is ergonomic, it's got some nice thumb jimping, it's relatively space efficient, it's not horrendously ugly, it's good. It's a good simple design, it's good simple construction. The same on the inside. If you've taken apart knives before, this will not be in any way surprising to you when you take it apart. The pocket clip works fine. It's a reversible, non-deep carry pocket clip. It's just a pocket clip and it's just fine. There's nothing special about it whatsoever. I'm sure some people would like a deeper carry. For me, it's about the same as my XM18. That depth doesn't really bother me. It's just a pocket clip. It's just a totally fine pocket clip. I don't have any complaints about it, but it's also not particularly amazing. But the fact that it's not giving me any reason to complain at this price is kind of pretty impressive. So on to the blade. The blade shape is also very basic, very simple. It's a simple drop point blade. It's ground very highly though. You can see that the grind continues the whole way up the knife. There is no flat at the top like there is on this XM18. The grind goes the whole way up. It is a full flat grind and it comes down to quite a nice thin edge. A thinner edge than I was expecting, which is excellent because it leads to this knife cutting better than I expected. The sharpening choil is not quite right, but I can't complain about it for this money really. It would be very rude of me to. I said that the design was very basic, and that's very good. It works great, and there's nothing to go wrong with it, and there's nothing really to particularly off-putting about it. But there is also very little going on here, and that's something that I personally don't like about this knife. But I think that is very much a knife guy problem, and not someone who's just looking for a cutting tool. I don't think they'd have an issue with it. So if you are a knife guy like myself and you've got plenty of other options, maybe in this size category something like the Civivi McKenna might be more appealing to you, or honestly even just the Kershaw Atmos designed by Elijah Isham might be more appealing to you as well. Sorry, Dmitry Sinkovich for the Atmos, not Elijah Isham. I think it was Isham for the McKenna though. Hope I've got that right. I didn't plan on bringing that up in this review. Anyway, it's quite a basic design, but there's nothing alienating about it. Now, the QSP Parrot costs £18 in the UK and about $20 in the US. And that is an exceptionally good price. That's really... it's not far outside open eel territory. It's £8 more expensive than an open eel. And the advantages that it has over an open eel are massive. This does not feel like an £8 more expensive than an open eel knife. It feels like a 30, 40, 50 pound more expensive than an open eel knife. I don't really want to get into this in too much detail because there's so many reasons I prefer it. But for one, you take your open eel out of your pocket, which, by the way, it won't lie nicely in your pocket because it doesn't have a clip. It'll lie uncomfortably and awkwardly at the bottom of your pocket. And then because it's almost round, you'll have to take it out and figure out where everything is, instead of just pulling it out your pocket and it being the same way round every time and you put your thumb on the stud and you go. No, you figure out what way round it is, you take it out of your pocket, you turn the collar lock, you stick your nail in the nail nick, you pull the blade round, you turn the collar lock back round, and you've opened the knife. Closing the QSP, done. Closing the open eel, twist the collar lock, push the knife down, twist the collar lock back, put it back in your pocket so it can fall to the bottom and become uncomfortable again. The QSP is miles ahead of an open eel, at least in my opinion. Now, as I'm sure you can tell, I'm not really an open eel fan. I get that some people love them. I get some of the reasons why, but yes, I would absolutely pay £8 more to get something like this, and I would recommend that you do as well. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got stuff like the CGRB, this is the Rampart, and Civivi, not specifically with this model. This is a Damascus and copper one, so it's a bit more money. CGRBs are still more or less twice the price of the QSP. It's this particular CGRB anyway is a more interesting design, at least to me. It's better materials, it's smooth flicky action running on ceramic bearings. It's a very nice knife, but you know, if you're not a knife guy and you don't know the differences already between D2 and 440C, this is going to probably perform so close to the CGRB that you'd probably be best to just save your money and go for this. This is a great knife. It is half the price, in the UK anyway, of like an Os 8 Ontario Rat, and I would take this over an Ontario Rat. I have no real love for the Ontario Rat. I have a lot of respect for it. It's been one of the top budget knives for a very long time. But I prefer this. This is just a bit nicer to me. So overall, I think the QSP Parrot is one of the best budget knives available. I've already recommended it to several people. I think this is one of the very best knives. And again, especially for someone who doesn't care about knives. If you're thinking about getting a knife for, I don't know, a friend at work who's always borrowing your knife, and you want to get them something decent, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, this is probably a really good option. And the same for if you want something that you can kind of beat up and not worry about, or there's so many applications for a knife that is just this price, and especially when it's this good as well. This is excellent. If you want an inexpensive cutting tool for whatever reason, this is really, really good. If you are a knife guy, it lacks something. It lacks something to make it different, something to make it stand out. But if you're just looking for a tool, this is excellent. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.